Welcome back, Cindy Dole here, and this is Home Wizards, where we talk about all things tied to the home, including cooking by the book for Thanksgiving, because, hey, everyone's coming over, or maybe you're going someone else's home, and you're maybe just bringing the wine and the side dish, but you hope that turkey is going to come out beautifully and be tasty and scrumptious and juicy and everything right, and not be frozen on the inside or uncooked all the way through. We got to help you get your turkey groove on, so with me is someone who can help us, Marty Van Ness, with the Butterball Hotline. You can call on in at 888-KFWB 980, 888-539-2980, because nothing frightens Marty. Right, Marty? You aren't afraid of any turkey questions at all.
No, I think I've heard it all.
What was probably the one that just sticks out in your mind as one you'll never forget? A classic question.
I mentioned earlier that thawing is our number one question, and I had a guy call in, and he was very, we have very creative callers, and they're smart too because they know to call us. And he said he was trying to defrost a turkey in a hurry because he had to start cooking it and serve it, I think, that day. And he said, I need to know where to set the dial. And I thought, the dial on what, the oven? He said, no, I've got it wrapped up in an electric blanket high. And I'm thinking, maybe that's too warm, and where should I set the dial? So I said, take the blanket off the turkey, put the turkey in a large sink of cold water, and that 12-pound turkey will be defrosted in 6 hours. So, it's just cute. They know that maybe there's something, not quite right with this, so I better run it by Butterball, talk line to make sure, and we're happy to help them.
Yeah, an electric blanket, that is kind of creative, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so let's go through first the right kind of bird to buy. How big, and do you go with fresh or frozen? How do you make that decision, you think?
First of all, fresh or frozen, that's really a personal decision, and I like the convenience of buying a frozen turkey ahead of time, and then I know I've got the size I want. I fortunately have a second refrigerator in the basement, so I can put it in the freezer down there, but some people don't really have that kind of freezer space, and so they for many reasons, like to buy the fresh turkey, which is a great turkey that we make, and we make both turkeys in a wide range of sizes. But to make sure you get the size you want, you probably want to have that turkey purchased today, whether it's fresh or frozen. Mm-hmm. And the frozen ones will take so many days for so many pounds. That's all on the package written down. And the fresh ones you just put in your refrigerator. And any of our turkeys that are sold in the month of November are good for Thanksgiving. There will even be a date, a use-by date that tends to be a few days after Thanksgiving. So you're just fine, because I realized over the years talking on the turkey talk line, many people celebrate their Thanksgiving dinner sometimes the day before or the day after, depending on their job, or relatives are coming in from out of town and maybe the relatives' jobs. So it's kind of like a celebration between this year, the 24th and the 28th, kind of. It kind of can go all weekend.
Oh, absolutely. That's what we're doing. We're having a non-traditional Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving proper, and then doing our turkey on Saturday.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people want to have that turkey selected and ready in the refrigerator, and a fresh turkey, works just fine for whatever day, up to the day that it's recommended to be used by.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the challenges that people go through. I mean, like, safety is always, I think, a concern, right? The salmonella thing.
Well, if you keep the turkey cold and you prepare it in a short amount of time, it usually takes about a half an hour to get your turkey all ready to go into the oven. If you're going to stuff the turkey, it takes a few more minutes, and then it goes into a hot oven. So you're just fine with, not having to worry about a safety issue.
I mean, are we still thinking possibly to stuff the turkey? Because I've been hearing lately in the past few years, don't do that may not be a safe thing.
Well, it was talked about by USDA several years ago about being a concern because people were not cooking the turkey long enough to get the stuffing cooked. You have to, we all realize we're putting stuffing, that is bread and maybe some warm broth and some sautéed vegetables and seasoning, into a raw cavity. So that raw cavity may have the presence of some bacteria. They're poultry. All poultry can have that, and that's why we cook it properly. I always stuff the turkey. You take the stuffing to 165 degrees. That's the USDA recommended temperature, and we totally agree. Our microbiologists say yes. You got to have the whole turkey a minimum of 165 to be safe to eat. But the breast is done at 170 degrees, and the thigh is done at 180 degrees. So these are 3 different endpoint temperatures. So I always recommend people to have a meat thermometer when they're cooking a turkey, just to make sure. It's kind of like your eyes to the inside of the turkey. You know that thigh is 180. And oftentimes when the one thigh on my turkey on the one side is done at 180, I will take out my thermometer and poke it into the other thigh on the other side. And I'll kind of fish around to see if I can find a number lower than 180. And if I find a 172, I leave that thermometer right there. I put it back in the oven and wait till it hits 180. Then I know the whole turkey's done. Then I also check the stuffing, make sure it's at least 165. But this brings me to another point, is that when you stuff a turkey, it does take a little bit longer to cook because you have to get the stuffing done. So you've got the thighs that have to get to 180. The stuffing has to get to 165. The breast, it's just sitting up there in the top of the oven, kind of all exposed to the hot air. To protect that breast so it stays juicy and doesn't get too hot and get dried out, we recommend a little tent of foil on top of the breast area. You don't want to be covering the whole turkey and prevent heat from getting to it. You only want to protect the breast from the hot air. So this starts to temper down the cooking process, but you don't put that tent on until about 2/3 of the way through. So if your turkey is going to take 3 hours, you need to put it on after about 2 hours. If it's a really large turkey and it might take 6 hours stuffed, then after about 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours, you want to tent just the breast to protect the breast from overcooking while we're waiting for those delicious thighs to get done.
Now, what about flipping the bird? Because that can be a problem if the turkey needs to be transferred, that whole thing. I mean, I like to flip it over so it gets golden on both sides.
Do you? Okay. We have heard of that method, the upside-down method. Usually start it upside down and then turn it over, or just leave it there the whole time. Our only concern with recommending that is that for some people, turning over a heavy, hot turkey could be dangerous.
Yeah.
Slip out of their hands. It could end up on the oven door, which wouldn't be a disaster, or on the floor, which could be worse.
Oh, then there's only 10-second rule.
We've got to move fast.
I won't tell if you don't.
Actually, if you use a shallow roasting pan about 2.5 inches high, and then put a roasting rack up underneath the turkey so that the turkey is lifted up out of the pan slightly, that hot air from the oven can do its work and get under the turkey and get those thighs cooked. Because that tends to be most people's concern or problem, is that they've cooked the turkey. It looks gorgeous. It smells gorgeous. It's on the carving plate, and they have cut into the thigh, and they have red juices. And the red juices is a good indicator that the thighs are not done. So that's where that meat thermometer comes in handy. At 180 degrees, those thighs are done. The little bit of juices that do flow out at that temperature might have a very, very slight blush, but that's indicative of the dark meat, not undercooked meat.
How about to baste or not to baste? Let's say that, one person wants to put the bird in the oven and forget about it, and the other wants to baste it on every commercial break.
Well, I grew up with my mother and my grandmother basting that turkey every half hour. Or it was in a big covered pan roaster, and then they slide it out, lift the big lid, this big plume of, you get like a sauna, spa treatment while you were roasting the turkey in those days. And they would baste it, but what we discovered was it extends the cooking time. It doesn't really help the turkey, because the turkey, unless you've taken the skin off, which I never do, we don't recommend that, whatever you put on top of the turkey in a way of basting rolls off, and it either seasons or flavors or adds to the drippings in the pan. So it really doesn't do anything for the moisture of the turkey. Think about it. If you put a turkey in an oven, and we like the open pan method because it's the simplest, it's the easiest, and has the most consistent results. Open pan means no cover until you do that little tent about 2/3 of the way through. If you have that turkey in the oven and you open the door every 30 or 40 minutes and baste it, you are cooling down the oven, then you're sending the turkey back in, and it has to heat up again, so it's going to take longer to cook. Therefore, that breast has been exposed to that hot air even longer. So because there's no benefit to basting, and it slows down the cooking, and it might even make the breast drier, it really works against you. So save the basting. The first time I tell people they put that turkey in the oven at 325, stand away from the oven. You're not going to open that oven door. oven door until about 2/3 of the way through. You might want to adjust the thermometer at that time. Sometimes during the cooking process, the muscle will start to firm up, and it might push the tip of the thermometer out slightly. So you want to make sure you're finding the coolest spot in that thigh, and then put the turkey right back in the oven and leave it alone until your thermometer reads 180 in the thigh or that 165 in the stuffing. It's so easy. It's so simple. We need to keep it simplified, but I do know that a lot of people have a lot of emotional attachment to their turkey because this is a very special occasion for all of us. The turkey is the star of the dinner generally, and everybody wants a perfect turkey. So, it's like having a new baby at home. You're always like checking on them. But they're sound asleep, so you just kind of peek. But every time you peek at the turkey, it's going to extend the cooking. It's going to throw off the rest of your time schedule. So I'll leave it alone in the oven until it's ready to be.
Sounds like we need to have a glass of wine and just forget about it. we're over-loving our turkey, we're worrying too much. Talking with Marty Van Ness with the Butterball Hotline. Maybe you have a question, you can talk to us here at 888-KFWB-980, 888-539-2980. What about the idea of, okay, now the turkey is just perfect. It looks gorgeous. You can tell that the juices are clear, the thermometer is where it should be. Everything's great except all the company hasn't arrived. And so now you have the possibility of the turkey either going cold or drying out. What are we doing?
I've got the perfect solution. Sometimes I plan on having that turkey done about an hour before because we all know to make gravy, that's a last-minute thing. You've got to get those drippings out of the pan before you can make the gravy. We have a great tip that we tested several years ago, and I give this advice to a lot of people, especially if you've got a big group coming and they're all bringing dishes they want to put in your oven and you have one oven. You cook the turkey, and you're going to maybe say you're going to eat at 5. Let's make sure that turkey's done at 3, because you've got about 2.5 hours for this method I'm going to go into for a bit. At 3 o'clock, the turkey's done. Perfect. Smells great, looks great, all the endpoint temperatures are just perfectly fine. You take that turkey out of the roasting rack and you wrap it up in foil. You need to have a cooler, like a big ice chest cooler, that you maybe use for parties in the summer and you put ice in and all your pop. Empty cooler, clean newspapers on the bottom. You set into that cooler with no ice in it, that wrapped up turkey, hot as can be, use pot holders, lay it in there, put some other clean newspapers on top, put a couple of clean bath towels. Everybody has a set of bath towels in the basement or somewhere in their laundry room that are old towels just for these kinds of occasions. A couple of clean bath towel on top, put the lid down. That turkey will stay hot. You have 2 hours to use that turkey. In the meantime, you can be making the gravy with all the drippings in the pan. Your guests can arrive an hour or so.
And you have space in the oven.
You have an oven up the oven, an empty oven.
Love that.
To do all the extra.
The side dishes, yeah.
Potatoes, you can mash them up, put them in a covered casserole, put it in the oven to keep warm. Cook something, have that glass of wine. All you have to handle a knife now, so you don't want too much wine.
So Marty, why the newspapers? What's the secret with that?
It's a little insulating.
Uh-huh.
And the bag, the wrapped up turkey might drip a few juices, so that clean newspaper just insulates and kind of collects any kind of drip.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break and check out the traffic situation. But when we come back, more with Marty with the Butterball Hotline. I want to find out how you make gravy if it's just come out and it's flavorless. I mean, it's not lumpy, but it doesn't have flavor. You're going to have that and a few more great ideas from Marty Van Ness, who is a turkey pro. Maybe you have a question, you can call on in at 888-KFWB-980. You're listening to Home Wizards, where we talk about ways to enjoy those spaces you call home, darn it. I'm Cindy Dole. We're back after this.